Join us today on Beyond the Lair, where we have a conversation with Lynsey Stock, Director of Sales and Marketing, Westin Bayshore, Vancouver, British Columbia. We discuss honoring the land, core values, promoting indigenous culture, experience in creating a corporate culture based on knowledge, education, and respect. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Lair. I am one of your co-hosts, Gina Jackson Montgomery. My traditional name is Cetacia, and I'm a proud member of the Seashell Nation. I'd like to introduce my co-host.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dean Montgomery. I'm Cree Métis from Saskatchewan, and here we are in Vancouver today in the unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam First Nations.
We are very excited today to have a conversation with a very good friend of ours, but also one of our guest coaches for the Bears Lair TV show, and also one of our lead sponsors for the Westin Bayshore. And her name is Lynsey Stock. She is the Director of Marketing and Sales for the Westin Bayshore and has been working there for about 7.5 years. And we're going to get into how we met very shortly, but we want to know a little bit about you. Welcome to our show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this. A little bit about me. I am a BC girl by nature. I was born up north in a place called Terrace. Some people know about it, some people don't, but it's beautiful. And I've been at the Bayshore for about 7.5 years, but have been in the hospitality industry for about 20 some odd years now. And I think we'll talk about that, but it's been an interesting career. It's a great industry.
So we were just in Terrace, BC. We talked about that. We were facilitating one of our youth entrepreneur dream camps. So such a beautiful area full of industry, and it's grown exponentially now. So I can't believe that we met somebody that was born there. And it's such a pleasure to have you here. What kind of hospitality industry experience did you have, and how did you end up from Terrace to the Westin Bayshore in Vancouver?
I guess it's a bit of an adventure. So I was born in Terrace. I grew up all over the province. So I've lived in Prince George and Kamloops. My grandparents were always in Vancouver. So we eventually made our way back to Vancouver. And I finished high school in Richmond, BC. I went to the University of British Columbia rather briefly. It kind of wasn't for me, but eventually found my way to the University of Guelph in the hospitality management program, where I have a Bachelor of Commerce with honors from, when did I graduate there? 2005. And the way I kind of ended up there was, I think I was working at a grocery store. I wasn't getting hours. I had a girlfriend who worked at a restaurant and said, I think I can get you a job here. Like, you could be a hostess. And I was like, oh, that's great, because I need money to pay for school. So, started working at a restaurant and then started serving. And then I became a manager. And then I decided to go to school for that. My ideas were more food and beverage focused than hotel focused. And that's where I really started my career. After university, everyone kind of wanted to go work in hotels, and I wanted to have my own catering company. But I slowly fell into the hotel side of the business through working in restaurants and getting to know people. Just as you do, you chat with tables, you chat with regulars. And eventually one of my regulars said, I think you'd be really good in sales. Come work for me at the Marriott. That was my first hotel job about 10, 12 years ago. So I started as a catering sales manager and then have grown from there. So I was a catering sales manager, then a sales manager, senior sales manager, director of sales. In the middle of that, I kind of moved from the Marriott over to the Westin, and then now have been the director of sales and marketing for a little over 2 years at the Westin Bayshore, one of Canada's very best hotels. So
the Westin Bayshore is such a beautiful, beautiful hotel. Can you tell us what makes the hotel special? The location and the energy that surrounds that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's such an iconic hotel right on the waterfront, just outside of Stanley Park. The seawall goes right around the property. We have both an indoor and outdoor pool, and the outdoor pool is situated in a 14,000 square foot Canadian Wildlife Federation certified habitat garden that we get to stay and play in. And then we get to continue to enhance. Just overall wellness is a big focus for us. We're being a Westin hotel. That's really key to what we do. So we have some programs like Run Westin, where we do guided runs along the seawall, talking about Stanley Park and the different things that you can do in Stanley Park. We have a biking program. We have a liquid yoga program, which is floating on the indoor and outdoor pools. It's rather challenging, but very fun. And then we do a lot of sustainability initiatives. Earlier this year in February, we removed all single-use plastic water bottles from the property. And we were counting earlier this week that we've so far diverted 46,000 water bottles from the landfill, which is really exciting for us.
Wow.
That's great. We had our contestants on the Bears Lair come and stay with you. Thank you, as you well know, as an incredible sponsor. But, you're talking about the wellness of the hotel. And I think that one thing that contestants really love, and the contestants, as Gina named, it's co-opetition. So even though they're competing, they became really good friends. But I think anytime you become good friends or you get to connect with someone, it's where you are and what the environment is. And this, being Indigenous people and entrepreneurs from all over Canada, like, what is it special that you've done there to really, really foster this environment?
Yeah, I think we continue to look for opportunities on how we can work best with the Indigenous people, both through hosting, but through reconciliation, which is something, Gina and I have talked about quite a bit. Last year, we successfully installed an Indigenous pollinator garden on property, which was really, we thought, a good way to introduce some of our guests into what the Coast Salish cultures are, and to engage them in learning a little bit about maybe getting interested in finding out more on their travels. Being a big branded hotel, we have a lot of guests coming from overseas. We get locals as well, but just trying to get people interested and excited about learning more, and then fostering that culture and awareness. So how can we be a good partner to the people that, this is the land that we reside on. How can we be good partners to everyone?
Excellent. We're having Keith Henry as one of our guests from ITAC, and he talks about experiences. So when people come to Vancouver and they want an experience. So they said he said Indigenous tourism has gone up 23%, and where other non-Indigenous tourism has gone up about 13%. So I know it's very important that as a business you follow trends, and you have such a unique location that is on the unceded territory of the Musqueam and Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh people, and you really want to promote that experience as well as enjoying the beautiful luxuries that you offer at a hotel. So the way that you and I met was you had an idea, and your organization had an idea to have an Indigenous garden. And that was really important because I know you've got the barrel saunas, and I know you've got all of the amenities that are so beautiful. Why was it important to have something like that? We'll get into all of the other initiatives, but I'm just thinking chronologically how we met. Why was it important to you to think about something like that with some space that could be utilized?
So in my career, originally I took care of the Indigenous markets. And so I would go to a lot of different trade shows and events. And I got to know some really amazing Indigenous people from all across Canada and became good friends. And I got to experience such kindness, such genuine experiences, and really opened my eyes, I felt personally, to just the beauty of all these different cultures, and people, just such warmth. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to showcase this to other people who haven't had the opportunity to travel the same way that I have? And so how could we open the door to the conversation using our platform. And so with our expansive garden, one of the thoughts was, could we take a corner of it and really speak to the true heritage of this land on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam First Peoples, and showcase some of what the heritage really is, and just maybe start the conversation. So that's where the idea for the garden itself came. We already have the garden, but how could we tie it back to the culture? And so what we did is it's all indigenous plants, and all of the signage is around the English name, the Latin name, the Squamish name, and the Hunkanim name. And then also a little bit about what the plant would have been used for. So it's a pollinator garden, which is great because we also have honeybees on property. So we work with Sea Spice on this project. She lives nearby, and so she comes by here and there and checks on it. But I remember the day it was being installed, she was so excited because she's like, there must be bees around here. There's bees coming over. And I said, oh, we have bees. Like it's really part of our overall footprint, but tying it all together and then just trying to showcase it for other people to get excited the way we get excited.
I think that's such a great initiative, and in respect of the spirit of procurement, Sea Spice is a proud member of the Squamish Nation, and her family were one of the first inhabitants that had that territory. So she felt very connected to it. And she is an amazing human that does expert in community gardens and knows indigenous plants like Devil's Club and things like that are medicinal to indigenous peoples around the area. And it's so nice to, again, create an experience for those people. The guests internationally, nationally, regionally, locally, what have you. And I can't wait for the garden to bloom because that was just last year, and We've had a very early spring this year. Let's go from there to creating experiences for Indigenous Day, Indigenous Month, September 30th, because I know it was really important to you. And I love hearing the story about you going out and taking a culture like with the Indigenous markets and giving your experiences and how you felt about bringing those experiences to yourself and then bringing into the Westin. We connected again about traditional dancers and then also traditional arts. So maybe you can explain what the Westin did last year and what they're going to continue doing this year.
Yeah. And so we do a host of different activities and activations, especially over the summer months where we see a lot more leisure guests coming into the market, a lot more international guests as well. And so one of the things we were really passionate about, and Gina, you were so key in this, we added a performance that features both dancers, singers, drummers on Saturday nights. And it's coming back again this year. So 6 p.m. on Saturdays, we do it weather permitting in our courtyard. If not, we do it in the lobby. But it's just one of the activations that we do. And it's great to hear the stories behind the songs, the dances. There's a lot of, who wrote the song, what the traditional words are, and opening it up to the guests as well. So, telling a little bit of story about the land. What is this land traditionally called? Who are the people who originally inhabited it? So that was really special. Something we did last year for the first year. For Indigenous Peoples Day, we'll do similar this year. Again, it's weather permitting, so we always hope for a sunny day, but we don't know. So it may be in the lobby, it may be in the courtyard. We'll just see what happens with the weather on that particular day. And then the other thing we added last summer that's coming back again this year was a curriculum around Indigenous arts and crafts and storytelling. And so it's in the lobby at 11 a.m. on Sundays. And again, those are our highest transient guests. So we have families, we have people of all different demographics, and we have one of the elders come in. She brings crafts. She does things like cedar weaving, storytelling, wool weaving, all kinds of amazing things. And so it's really nice. We see youth engaging all the way through to more senior members of our guests. and they get to engage and hear some stories, but then they also get this piece to take with them as a memory of that experience. So,
it's amazing that, I mean, for you grew up in Terrace and you said PG and Kamloops, so you're in these, real hubs of Indigenous communities in BC, and, you get to Vancouver and of course it's very prevalent, but there's a lot more people as well. So what was the process like to bring the corporate culture of the Marriott, specifically to do this? And for you, I'm sure it was quite natural, but how did that grow or evolve?
Yeah. I think we've hosted a lot of Indigenous events over the years at the property. But our leadership team is very supportive of this. We've had a number of conversations, but we believe it's the right thing to do. We think it's a part of our platform and we have this ability, but it's an authentic experience. And just like you were saying with the Indigenous tourism, like it's an authentic experience that we can offer our guests, and we don't want it to not be authentic. Like if we're going to do it, we want to do it the right way. And so that's important to us. And so making sure we have the right partners, that we're doing it in a way that's educational, respectful, all the things that are so important, but then providing that gateway to our guests to become more curious.
And what's the feedback like you get from the guests?
It's been really positive. And so I know we've seen people who've become really emotional because they're so moved by the different performances. They're so engaged with the crafts and like, oh, this is so cool. And then hearing the stories, oh, that was such a cool experience. And then they're telling their friends, and then the feedback's all been really positive. So it's nice to see.
I love that experiential learning and being a part of that, because when you take your children, because it's really family focused, from the dancers that incorporate an experience, because they go out and they get the crowd involved and they get the crowd singing and drumming at the same time and singing and teaching words of the language, but also Alice Gus, who's one of the resident artists that comes in on Sundays. And again, what is the date that these experiences are?
So this year they will start for the summer on June 29th, 30th, so the long weekend, and then go through September 7th, 8th weekend. Indigenous Peoples Day on June 21st will be in advance of that, but that's kind of the official program start dates.
Right. And it really is about connection. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about storytelling, so I know that we've got developing a curriculum with those artists and with those dancers about what the meaning and the core values are. And a lot of the core values of Indigenous people are respecting the environment, the land, the culture, the language, the elders. There is not just those experiences, but you get so many conferences that are Indigenous-led organizations that come into the Westin. Can you tell us about some of those organizations and some of the events? One that I emceed last year, which was a Squamish staff acknowledgement event that was all red carpet, but I mean, just beautiful. But can you tell us what the draw is, number one, for these Indigenous organizations to come to your hotel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we're very fortunate because we've built a lot of these relationships. And I mean, I do believe it's a lot of, because we've done well, word travels, right? So a lot of it is referral from other organizations that are saying like, oh, you should go here. They know what they're doing, which is, I think we know what we're doing. So it's really positive, but it's, national organizations that have annual meetings that come back year over year. Other organizations like CCAB awards and things where they're coming in, usually in the fall. We have some annual events that come throughout the year. I don't want to tell my competition all of my secrets. But, we have some really large organizations, educational organizations. Sometimes it's a government organization that's coming in. But because our team is fairly well versed at welcoming people. I think that's one of our strengths. And then being flexible to work on these different events. We do have quite a large amount of meeting space. We have a very large ballroom. It's over 15,500 square feet. So it's one of the largest ones in Canada. And we've had groups come in and set up like a longhouse inside that ballroom. And so, similar to this, it looks really nice. And so when you're welcoming people and you're showing them, this is what having a meeting in Vancouver can look like, it's a great venue to do that.
Perfect. I think one of our favorite people when we come to the Westin Bayshore is you have a gentleman right outside. That's an indigenous gentleman that's been working forever. I mean, we've seen him for years. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that and maybe some other indigenous employees that you have and how you can encourage other indigenous people to come up if they're interested in the hospitality or management to come and talk to you.
Yes. So Todd at our front door, he's been there longer than I have. I don't actually know his start date, but he's wonderful. And he knows so many people in the community, just like yourselves. And if you come, he's there, probably 5-6 days a week, very busy. But the front door and running that driveway is not an easy task. It's a lot of cars coming in and out, a lot of taxis, a lot of Ubers, a lot of buses and things. So he manages that very well. But he also remembers people, which is such an important thing in the hospitality industry. If you can remember a face, a name, a welcome, that's so key. I know our human resources team, we travel out to different colleges and different universities and programs to recruit. We hire a lot of people, especially for summer. So it's great for students looking for kind of like a summer work experience. I know we've gone to Native Education College. We're at Capilano College. We kind of circulate everything. So the best thing to do for someone who's interested is either attend one of those events or we have a website, marriottcareers.com. And that is a great way to apply for any jobs. But you can shoot over a resume as well. You always have to go through that portal. Sometimes we'll have a hiring fair as well, which I can always share. And I know we've worked on some newsletters and things as well that we can send out to Bears Lair subscribers so that they know when things are coming up if that's something that people are interested in.
Yeah. Oh, I remember when we were filming the Bears Lair and Dave Tuckrow came into town, and he's one of the Bears, of course, and an amazing guy. But he came up, and I think Todd and Dave gave each other a hug, right? And that was pretty nice to see.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it is nice. We have a lot of associates like Todd that have been at the hotel for a long time. And so they remember people year over year. And that's one of the nicest things when people are coming back, whether it's just on their own or they're coming in for an event. It's that, hey, good to see you again. And they're like, oh, your associates are so great. And they really are. They're wonderful.
I think it's so important to have that's the first face that you see because a lot of your target market is organizations, of course, and large events, but they're housed with Indigenous people for so many different events. And to see that familiar face and affection and pride, and that's what I see with Todd. I see a lot of pride in what he is doing. So, and what happened to the days when we just used to be able to walk in and say, here's my resume, may I speak to the manager? Those days don't happen anymore. And I know there's a lot of barriers when it comes and a lot of shyness that comes. So I think having a porthole helps. Mm-hmm. But is there anything with the porthole or a resume that could help people have that tipping point of maybe they mentioned that they are Indigenous. I know a lot of resumes. I used to give out resumes. I didn't say Gina Jackson, Sechelt Nation member. Mm-hmm. I just said Gina Jackson. So does the porthole say Indigenous descent? Is there a certain percentage or that percent that you would like to see happening or an increase in staff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there is. So it's when you go into the portal, you fill out a form. and there is something on backgrounds. So if you're of indigenous descent, there is that opportunity to check that box, which is something we're always striving for diversity and inclusion targets. And we continue to strive to increase that. I definitely think it would be great to have a large contingent of people who are really from this area and could really speak to some of the experiences. But we have our associates are really from all around the globe, so it's nice to see. And we do a cultural fashion show at different times, and it's great to see people come out in all their different like traditional wear from wherever they're from, which has been really nice. But I think, if people do want to reach out, they can reach out to people like me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm sure you can find me. But you do always have to go through the portal as well. But work your network, right? Like, I think that's something that sometimes gets lost in the digital age. Who do you know? And in the hospitality industry, it's really about being warm and friendly. So make sure that that's coming through. Don't just be a piece of paper. If you do come in and talk to the front desk, like that is an option, but we are going to direct you back to the portal at some point just because we have to hit that check mark.
Nice. I wanted to talk about the TV show. So the Westin Bayshore is a hotel, and sponsorships for different organizations are probably pretty rare. And just wanted to talk about when that opportunity came to you to sponsor the Bears Lair TV show, because there is no bigger sponsor than the Westin Bayshore that we had with the Bears Lair TV show, because you were generous enough, the organization was generous enough to sponsor 18 hotel rooms, actually more than that, I think 21 or 22 hotel rooms for our core judges, and then also 18 entrepreneurs from all over Canada that were traveling from Ontario to from Halifax. And a lot of these entrepreneurs have never been to Vancouver before. And I think I know the week that they came, that it was beautiful. It was 30 degrees. There wasn't our stereotypical rain that everybody is used to. And they just had the most amazing experience to come during a beautiful season last year. Just to go back in the past, when we were filming season 1, it was a pandemic. Mm-hmm. We had just had a show. We just got approved for a show with a very stringent budget. So everyone had to come, and we had hotel rooms in North Vancouver and what have you, but they had to make their own way here. Mm-hmm. And we were very lucky this year that we could afford flights and, of course, be sponsored. So it's great that you can get to Vancouver, but where are you going to stay? Were we going to do Airbnbs or what we were going to do? And you generously and the Westin Bayshore came up with, why don't we give you luxury suites at our hotel and give you the best experience? Because it's nerve-wracking when you're on a TV show, and we'll talk about you being a coach and how that is when all the cameras are in front of you. Mm-hmm. But being able to put all your chips in and sell your business and audition your business. So how did you come up with this idea, and why is it important for the Westin Bayshore to support such programming like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I mean, when the opportunity came up, it was definitely a discussion within our team, because it's a large financial commitment for us for this number of rooms, but also the opportunity to really show our support for not only the Indigenous community, but also Indigenous entrepreneurship. Like it's such a cool concept. I really like the idea of co-opetition, and that really resonated with our leadership team. It's a little bit outside our comfort zone, this co-opetition, but it's also like, if we're going to do something, we want to be in. And so we're doing all these other initiatives, and how can we really show our support is by putting our name on something like this and saying, like, we support Bears Lair season 2. It was our high season, which is, rates are high, but this is important to us to commit, to really kind of put our money where our mouth is and say, we can put our money behind this. So that, I think, was our biggest discussion. And once we came to agreement that we really thought that this was important for us and to show all of these things that we're doing, but that we're also a good partner.
I just think that the ripple effect of making a decision like that and how it changed just the energy of being nervous. And we had the entrepreneurs, we were filming in North Vancouver, and all of the entrepreneurs getting up every morning and getting a shuttle and having coffee together. And then after filming, going and having a meal with the other entrepreneurs that they hadn't seen before. And that's what we really elevate is what you mentioned, co-opetition. We purposely chose entrepreneurs that were non-competitive. Mm-hmm. So that they could freely talk about their businesses with each other and not have, this siloed hiding, I don't want you to take my idea. So we really did that on purpose. Mm-hmm. And to be able to have a place like the Westin Bayshore to go and decompress and relax and spend some time together, share a meal, and then see the judges and be able to, say hi in the hallway and just have that even relaxed that state.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And, one thing I think Gene and I always talk about is, we advise companies and on how to be involved and how to create inclusion and how to have, a meaningful impact. And the one thing it really comes down to is you can't be half in, right? If you're in, you're all in. And I think you really demonstrated that. It's amazing what you did.
Yeah. I can't even, mm-hmm. Like I mentioned, the Westin Bayshore is the lead sponsor. There is no greater sponsorship than that. We're so thankful to every other sponsor, but that really was putting, just like entrepreneurs, it's a really great synergy mm-hmm. And serendipitous nature of putting all the chips in and saying, we're in, just like echoing what Dean said. It's amazing. Tell us about, now included in the sponsorship mm-hmm. is you being on the show as a coach.
Yes.
So national TV show, coming in, not being a TV personality, and you got to see some of these entrepreneurs in the hotel in your day-to-day, but being able to come to a movie studio and then sit down and get hair and makeup done and then giving these entrepreneurs some advice to cool their nerves a little bit. I know Dean was a coach on the show, so you both have this commonality. Tell us about your experience and what your expectations were before, and then what your thoughts are after.
Yeah. It was definitely outside my wheelhouse. I'd never thought that I would be on TV in this capacity. And I remember when I was speaking with our general manager about the opportunity and that we could submit a coach, and he said, "Who are you thinking?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe you." And he was like, "No, you." So I thought, oh, wow, really? And I remember I was so nervous. I live out in Richmond. And so it was a bit of a trek to get to North Van. But it was I guess, sometimes the morning traffic can add a little bit to your stress. But when I got there, everyone was so kind and everyone just made sure that I was really comfortable, that I had whatever I needed. It was a real treat getting my hair and makeup done. I'm not going to lie to you. That was really nice. But the thing I enjoyed most was getting to know the contestants. Like, what a cool group of people. They're so passionate about their individual companies. They were all so different and unique, but creative, really great business ideas, really well spoken. And then to get to see them throughout the week, because I filmed relatively early in the week. So then, I went to work, I went to my day job and walked around the hotel, and I would see people and get to wish them luck and say hi. And, I think that's a nice part about the show too. It's not that competition you see in some of the other things in the world. People are really supporting everyone else's ideas, and it's genuine, and it makes it feel, a lot better to be a part of, I guess.
And what was it like coaching?
Other than the lights and cameras that were right on us, it felt just like a discussion. What makes your business indigenous? What makes you excited about your product? I do coach a team of sales and marketing professionals regularly. And so it felt a little bit like, things I would say to them. So things I would say on a day-to-day basis about, what do you want to do? What's important to you? What's your message that you really want to get across? Think about what your superpower is. Like that's something that you bring to the table. And that's part of, I think, being a genuine person as well.
Excellent. And I know that the Westin Bayshore supports entrepreneurism, not just on the performance level or the artist level, but if you go into your spa, if you go into your gift shop, and also gifts that you give, that you really support entrepreneurs that way as well. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about that, because supporting a TV show and then supporting the arts and music and tradition, but you also support from that micro entrepreneur level for different products.
Yeah, it's really, shopping local, I think is great. And that's one of the things. So in our gift shop, they're sourcing a lot of local products. So people can pick up, you can pick up different things if you forgot to pack them, but you can also pick up a interesting and unique souvenir that you can take home to your family or to remember your trip. So there's a couple different local, but also indigenous scarves, jewelry, that kind of thing are also available in the gift shop. And then in the spa on property, we have a Vita spa. And so they're an Ayurvedic spa. They do beautiful, beautiful treatments, but they have a lot of their own lines of different skincare, of different aromatherapies and things, and we partner with them. And then we have a team that goes out and sources things. We have a really nice gift that our Bonvoy ambassadors are gifted when they come and stay with us, and they're actually indigenous sourced products from the area, and they get a little bit of a story about why we're gifting this, what to do with them, because they're things like salves and they're things like different bath amenities and that kind of thing that are unique to this area. And that's where you would get them. And so trying to tell that full circle story about why you're getting this, but also why it's unique to this area.
Amazing. You've put all this effort into and a lot of planning into creating this environment that has this feel of Vancouver. I don't mean Vancouver, but the indigenous environment of it. And do you have any vision for the future? Any plans where you're going to carry this on, or how are you looking at that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we continue to grow. We continue to learn. We continue to look for opportunities. We've got some things coming out with our honeybees this summer. We do a kids cooking class. Last year, our culinary team purchased an urban cultivator where they can grow their own herbs and grains that they put on salads and things. So we're always kind of looking for the next thing, the next how to, and then how we can be a good partner. But what are our guests looking for too? That's a big thing. Sometimes I think our guests, they might not know what they're looking for yet because maybe they've never been here. So is it a tour that they can do in Stanley Park or something to learn a little bit about, there's some great tour companies out there that are doing indigenous walks and tours. There are some great things in the area. So really this year we're looking for those partnership opportunities, and how we can direct people to different tourism outlets in the area and be a good partner.
Yeah. And I think, it's one of those things that's, you can feel it, right? When you go into, we work with some businesses, you feel like these people really don't know what they're doing, but they want to, right? But, when you walk in, to the Marriott, you really don't feel that way. To the Westin Bayshore, you don't really feel that way at all. You feel like they know what they're doing. The staff is educated. They really want to bring it in there.
And how do you increase corporate culture in respect of Indigenous teachings and learnings? And I know that we spoke with the Indigenous Garden about the chef, talking to Cease, the curator of that garden, about using some of the herbs and using some of the Indigenous medicines, either it could be drinks or it could be in the food that people are eating, and they'd be able to talk about that, but also just learning more? Is there any kind of program or any kind of informational booklets out to the staff?
So we do have a diversity and inclusion training that our associates take. It's not specific to the area that we're in, but one of the things we've been looking at is a full management. So our management team's about 70 people, and hosting a indigenous culture awareness program with them directly. Part of that is we do so much with the community already. We want to make sure that everyone is aware and trained well. But I think it's also like, what are the opportunities? And so we continue to evaluate them as they come up, and we continue to look for the next opportunity. I think we're not saying we're done where we are. We want to keep looking, and we want to keep pushing the boundaries.
Nice. Have you ever considered for the future? I know that when you go to different hotels, and if we go to Mexico or if we go to Hawaii or what have you at a resort hotel, that you would have signups for canoe journeys. So for example, for indigenous tourism, like maybe developing some sort of partnership or collaboration with Indigenous Tourism Association Canada, where they could recommend some certified, because what they do is they do the due diligence. Their companies that they recommend fulfill the criteria of insurance, and they've got it dialed down. So we were talking about collaborations with different businesses, as collaborating with them just as a resource, so that you could, during the months of June to September, when the weather is somewhat decent here, except for January in Vancouver, but participate in having legend walks or kayak opportunities where the provider could come and pick the guests up and then take them to a spot and then bring them back. Have you thought about anything like that?
I think we are exploring that more this year. And definitely I would be interested in learning more. I wouldn't pretend to be an expert, but those are some of the things that we're talking about in planning for this summer season. How can we, who is out there who's doing this well and who's already set up to do this, so that we can make sure we're referring guests that are coming in and asking about it to the right people, and where can they pick up, that kind of thing.
Excellent. And I guess for the last question is, if you are an Indigenous entrepreneur, if you've got jams, candles, salves, products, anything like that you would like to present to the Westin Bayshore to have either in the spa or the gift shop, or having for your Bonvoy gifts for the future, how do they come across and how do they approach you?
That's a good question. I'm on LinkedIn. You can definitely find me there. You can reach out to the hotel. My business card is at the front desk. But I think people can reach out. My team, we have a marketing team who also helps curate that. We have a number of Indigenous entrepreneurs. When they come to events at the hotel, there's often a circle of trade. I will usually circulate the circle of trade myself. Sometimes I do some shopping. But also, that's a great way to start showcasing items to us. But if someone wants to reach out, and whether they get to me via LinkedIn or something, or through Bears Lair, I'm happy to look at it. I can't say we'll take everything on, but we have to make sure it's made to a food safe standard and all those governmental regulations, as we are a big organization, but happy to look at it.
Excellent. I know that you have to have capacity, you have to have competitive pricing, and it has to be a quality product. So interesting. So if our audience is listening and you're an Indigenous entrepreneur and you are interested in hosting an event, if you are interested in, if you have a dance group, if you have within the traditional territories, of course, of the nations, Musqueam, Squamish, or Tsleil-Waututh, if you are an artist that might want to give some sort of presentations or some storytelling, or an entrepreneur that might have some products that would be interesting and you would want to make available and get your business out, then you can contact Lynsey Stock at the Westin Bayshore, Vancouver. Again, she is on LinkedIn. You can phone the hotel and get a hold of her, or you can always call us or get a hold of us at info@bearslairtv.com. And just want to thank you so much for joining us. We really do need champions, and reconciliation, or what we call reconciliation, is about two hands joining together, whether it's indigenous or non-indigenous or what have you, whatever cultures, because really what the Westin Bayshore is doing is it's sharing the same core values as indigenous people. It's really uplifting each other. It is supporting the environment, sustainability, and just the corporate culture being elevated. And it's about knowledge, and it's about sharing knowledge. So you're a champion and you're a cheerleader, and so much love for you, Lynsey Stock. And thank you for being such a big supporter and an Indigenous champion.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure, and it's been such a great experience. So I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Lair. Please follow us, download this episode, and follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok.